Slurply Dirt Modgies, hope you're all doing wonderful. Firstly, apologies if I speak a bit lower in this video. My throat is a bit messed up still from this cough, and I've also had to record this video 4 times now because I keep getting something technical wrong each time. It's been a bit of a nightmare, but anyway, we're going to power through, right? So today we're going to do a bit of a, well, firstly actually, thank you everyone for all of your amazing comments recently on the channel and all of your engagement. Really means a lot to me. I don't have time often to reply to everyone individually, but I highly appreciate it, and I try to read everything that I can. Alright, so before we start, thank you. Yeah, let's get into this video then. So I wanted to do like a compositional and a bit of a bit of arrangement, a bit of drum layering, and a little bit of sound design and processing tips. So kind of everything in one, right? I created this little fun bubbly loop earlier, and have a little listen to it first, and then I'll dive into some nice tips for you guys. Alright, so nice fun loop there. We're going to jump straight into talking about the drums first. So here they are in isolation. And I'm going to walk you through all of the steps that I employed to make them. So firstly was selecting a kick. I chose just a pretty standard kick with not so much texture on. Just a good one that does the job. And for the kicks and the snares, I just chopped the files because they have often some like long reverb sound on them. So I kind of shorten the files a bit so that it doesn't go on forever. But I don't cut any of the actual kick audio out or the snare audio, you know? But yeah, so then for the kick, you know, it's all in the selection really, you know, but a couple of edits I did, just a small bit of length tightening, making it a bit shorter, and then a little bit of an EQ. And this is not always necessary, but sometimes kick drums have a little bit too much mid-range, and if you cut a little bit out, it can tighten things up a little bit, you know? It kind of depends on the kick, but this time it felt right to cut a bit of that mid out. That's it for the kick. That's running up around near 0 dB, you know? Let's add in the snare next. And the snare, classic D&B kind of sounding snare, same kind of thing, just shortened it a bit, made it a little bit snappier. And then EQ'd it again, but this time taking out the rumble. So you'll see the snare fundamental to around 320 or so, and I just took out all the rumble below that, which doesn't need to be in there. For the kick, I don't take out the low end because I want all of it, because I want the kick to be nice and powerful in the low end, because it's very important. And if I start messing with the low frequencies, I end up always weakening the kick drum, so I just leave it how it is 99% of the time. Alright, I actually had some little ghost kicks and snares in, as you might have heard. So this guy here, and then this guy, and then a little snare over here as well. I often do the ghosts hits on separate channels and process them a bit, but just to save time and because I was lazy, I kept them on the same channel, and I just turned down the audio files. You know, so just over here in the gain, I just turned down the files to create these slightly lower volume ghost hits on the kick and the snare. Alright, so let's add in the hats. So for the hats, I had a hat loop that had a lot of various crazy hat sounds in, and I didn't like them all. So I chopped out just the 2 basic hats that I liked, and I just re-looped them, bounced out the file, made it longer, and then I put a bunch of processing on the hat. And the whole idea is to try and get it to blend with my kick and snare so it doesn't mess with the kick and snare so much. So it's a case of transient shaping and EQing. Alright, so softening it a little bit, tightening it a little bit first. So I did that and thought, okay, it's better, let's take out some low end. Quite a lot of low end coming out up to 2K, but there's not really much in the sample below that anyway. And then I wasn't quite happy though, so I shaped it again. This time I went really tight. softened it and tightened it up a lot. Then I did another little mixing round, slightly softer, slightly tighter. Then I kind of liked that, and just a little EQ to finish. Then it's a case of mixing the volume. So the kick is up high, and this is, don't focus so much on the numbers on the channels, it's all about how it sounds, you know, how you perceive it dynamically. But the kick starts up pretty high, you know, up at 0, and then I bring the snare down like -4 from there, and the hats are down like even more, -7. But yeah, like I said, yeah, it's not about the actual number, it's about how you hear them, where they're placed in the spectrum, you know? Not the spectrum, in the volume levels. So creating a dynamic drum group. Alright, next I added in some magic dust. Now this is a really cool thing to do, and it's basically a splashy cymbal layer that acts as like a bed for the drums. So I found these two cymbals. They're kind of like two alternating cymbal hits, and they were in a loop, but it didn't really flow in, they didn't really repeat well into each other, so I had to reverb them and delay them quite a lot. But that was fine because it made them even more spacey and a bit phasey and a bit weird, and it gave it a bit of a mystical vibe, which I liked. Then I processed them a lot more again after I bounced them out, made a long file. Now it's a case of EQing again. I took out all the low end, and then you can see there was this kind of peak in the spectrum where it got really, yeah, not so nice and not very smooth, so I just remedied that to make the frequencies a bit flatter. Alright, a little bit of transient shaping, not so much. A little more EQ, again just a low end and sculpting the highs a little bit. Trying to get it to blend with the rest of the drums, you know. I added some more reverb, the convolver, the white blur 200 milliseconds. Made it even more spacey. Pushed it even more in the background. A little compressor just to control the volume a little bit, because they kind of, I wanted it to be even. So the compressor just leveling out the volumes a bit, and then the channel EQ. Again, just taking out that low end because I'm a bit obsessed with making sure there's there's nothing, no rumble that shouldn't be there. But yeah, so that's then the drums, the main parts really. You know, this got this lovely little bed underneath it all now, very low, sort of -15 dB. But without it, you lose all of that depth that it gave, you know. Alright, so pretty happy around there, but next I wanted to do another little processing trick, which is basically bouncing up the whole drum group and relayering a new version of it on top with different harmonics. Okay, so I bounced out the whole drum group, minus the ghost kicks, not for any particular reason, it's just I actually added in the ghost hits like later on, and I'd already made this sort of convolution layer. But it doesn't make a difference really, because it's just still exaggerating the main kicks and snares and the hats, and it's still doing a great job. So this is the drum layer that's bounced out, and so the idea is to process this layer and relayer it back on top of the drums. So first up, 100% reverb, convolution reverb, gone for the white decay 200 milliseconds. Gives a great room sound, right? But then I wanted to change it more. I lo-fied it up with some tape. Yeah, makes it more interesting and different to the original. Bit of phase distortion as well. Yeah, quite messes up the sound quite a lot there, but it's okay because we're gonna layer it back on. I also then narrowed it as well, because all of these convolution and reverbs, like, they often make the sound super wide, and you don't always. Sometimes you want the softness and the new harmonics, but without the extra width. So in that case, you can just narrow things again afterwards if you have to. So it's something I do a lot. Now taking out all the low end, and now we've got this high crunchy layer, and that sits then on top of the drums. And without it, yeah, it gives you this whole extra dimension of like a new harmonics bit crispy that sits on top. And I wanted to take this all a step further and actually crisp up the high end on the drums even more. So I actually used a new technique as well that I haven't done before, which is using the ring mod, which I often use in phase plant bass sound design to add white noise into the sound. And I put that into the drums in the high end only. So up here, 1.6K and upwards, injecting this digital white noise into the drums, and it kind of follows the beat, and it just adds this, yeah, just subtle extra crisp in the high end, which is really nice on the whole drum group, and I really like that. The rest of the processing for the drums is just a little bit of side EQing, taking out some of the lows, like not so much. Well, actually a fair amount, 200 hertz, but I don't think wasn't too much in there to begin with, is what I mean. But I took it out just in case, make some room for the bass as well. And then, yeah, boosting the highs a nice amount on everything. Bringing the whole drums to life in the high end altogether. Alright, so that's the main drum group there, but I wasn't happy yet because I wanted to add a vibe into it. So this is where I added in the percussion shots. And for me, they basically 10x'd the drum group because they give it like a story and a melody almost, you know? And so all I did was carefully select some one-shots that I like the sound of, and then place them in different sort of funky offbeat spots to create a little bit of a vibe and a melody, you know? So just choosing sounds that I liked and then paying attention to the tone of them, and then almost writing a little kind of hook with them. And that's it really. I just spent a few minutes just, you know, organising that. And for the processing on that, I just did a little compressor to level out the volumes of them, because they're one shots and they have different volumes to them. And rather than adjusting them all individually, just put a compressor on and level it out a bit on the channel. After that, a touch of reverb on everything, because they're one shots. It's nice to have a bit of reverb so that they all kind of feel like they're the part of the same group. Alright, that's the drums done. So yeah, I really like those as they are, but I wanted to, yeah, finish off the loop a bit and get some phase plant bass magic going on. So here's a patch that is probably on my last preset pack, the Magic Box, but I could be wrong about that. But it's called Cream of the Future. It's quite a simple patch actually. I think this might be a concept version of the final preset before I finished it up. But either way, a sine wave and a nice bit of granular synthesis, right? And it's got this great stuttery kind of sound. And I modulate I automate the length of the grains to create a different speed of the stuttering effect, and I did that basically with the automation in Logic. So you have these parts where the stutter kind of speeds up just to add variation. The MIDI is quite simple. It's just playing with semitones, root note D, going up to the D sharp to destabilize, and just doing a little melody like that. Okay, but yeah, the having that stutter effect kind of speed up and slow down gave even more like life to the sound. I would typically bounce this out pretty quickly because I don't really like to have automation in my project ever. So because I've automated it, I tend to bounce that out quickly just because of past trauma of using automation in Logic. I don't really like to do that when I can avoid it. But yeah, it was great to have that variation. But then I was like missing a lead or something, an extra element, and I thought I could create some FX sounds using the bass, and so I created two FX sounds that sit on top of everything. And I created them basically just using the wave shifter again on the phase plant bass, right? So this first, I bounced out the phase plant patch, and then I had two versions with two different wave shifter settings. The first one, the noise shift, added this really nice noise sound on top of the bass. Okay, taking out some of the lows. It's more just the noise on top, and then bouncing that out down to here and chopping the noise file to sit so the noise hits sit on top of the kicks. I just thought that would be cool for the vibe, so every time the kick happens with the bass you've got like this noise splash. Only on the main kicks, not the ghost kicks. I felt like that was a nice compositional idea, you know? Then I wanted a little response effect as well. So for that, I created a separate wave shifter version. And this one is the bubble shaper. So quite a fun one. I thought I could use that in a small way to add some little extra funk into the arrangement. So again, I bounced that out. A little bit of EQing, and then we got this part here. These lovely little bubbles, which I use basically in the little gaps, sort of between, in the sort of off notes often, you know, at the end of half a bar or at the end of a bar, like just before. So it's just little spots where there's like there can be a little pickup note. So with the kick and snare, you know. These little offbeat moments, you know, so they add a really nice call and response flavour to the bass now. Both of these two effects. Yeah, and because they're made from the bass, like they kind of fit naturally harmonically on top of it very easily. And yeah, they just have a little bit of EQ, just taking out some low end so that the bass still has all the low end, you know. I cracked a little sidechain on my bass, just one to the kick for now. Like that was kind of good enough for now. Already sounded pretty fat doing that, so the mixdown, due to the composition and the arrangement, is already pretty clean, you know, without much sidechaining work. Just one little one for the kick and the bass. But yeah, there we have it, folks. That is that's my little fun little bubbly loop today. Hope you learned a bit from my techniques on composition, arrangement, layering and processing and sound design. Hope it was helpful for you guys. Thanks for watching. May I quickly remind you as well, if you guys ever want mentorship or mastering, you can also email me at info@artifactmusic.com, art1factmusic.com. If you want any more information about my lessons or my mastering services, just hit me up via email. It's the best way. And come along and join us on Discord. We've got a brilliant community on there that'll help you out, give you some feedback on your own tracks when I'm not around, and you'll also be able to participate in our future Discord-only live streams, which we will do again after the current remix competition is over, with Sun Tell You on Artificial Music. His remix comp is coming up soon. The results will be live streamed. It'll be a lot of fun. More info for that on my Patreon page. If you want to access that, you can access that post for free. All right. Faceplant and Vital and current preset packs are also available on my website. Should you want any brand new banging sounds to pimp out your project, feel free to grab some packs. I highly recommend them. And that's it from me today. Make sure you subscribe as well and like the video. And thank you very much for watching. More from me very soon. Much love.